The restaurant pulsed with energy, laughter echoed from every corner, glasses chimed with toasts, and soft music hummed beneath the cheerful chaos. Overhead, golden fairy lights draped across the ceiling, casting a gentle, golden warmth over the long table where my coworkers and I were seated. We were gathered to celebrate. Tonight was meant to be important. It was supposed to be my night. For 5 straight years, I had given everything to this company. I stayed late without complaint, took on the most frustrating issues no one else wanted to touch, and mentored new hires even when it was far beyond my job title. My boss, Glenn, had spent months dropping hints assuring me that I was next in line for the senior manager role. And now at this very party, I was expecting my promotion to be officially announced. I had played this moment out in my head countless times, the applause, the pride swelling in my chest, that long-awaited recognition. I smoothed the edge of my navy dress and glanced around at my coworkers, all of them in high spirits, raising glasses in celebration of the company's quarterly win. At the head of the table, Glenn rose to his feet, tapping a fork against his wine glass to command attention. The noise around us softened to a hush. My heart beat louder with every second. Tonight, he began, his voice steady and authoritative. I want to take a moment to honor someone truly outstanding. Someone who has shown remarkable energy, talent, and dedication in such a brief time with us. It's rare to witness this level of impact in only 3 months. My hands froze mid-clap. 3 months? Glenn turned to Jenna, the newest member of our team. Jenna, he continued, smiling brightly, you've gone above and beyond our expectations. Your creativity, leadership, and problem-solving ability have stood out to all of us. That's why I'm so pleased to officially announce you as our new senior manager. Congratulations. The room burst into cheers. Applause surrounded me as I sat motionless, my hand clenched around the delicate stem of my champagne flute. My throat tightened while I forced my lips into a smile. Jenna rose, visibly surprised and gracious, accepting the promotion with a modest laugh and a few words of thanks. But my reality had tilted. Glenn then turned slightly in my direction, as though remembering I was still seated there. And Maya, he added, his voice now perfunctory, you've been such a reliable part of the team. We truly value all your contributions. That was it. 5 years boiled down to a passing compliment. A meaningless pat on the back. I swallowed hard and smiled wider. Jenna absolutely deserves it, I said, raising my glass to toast her. Glenn nodded, but then added, she's already doing more than you, Maya. Maybe take a few notes. Laughter followed. Jenna blushed and quickly said, oh, I wouldn't go that far, but the damage had already been done. The words hovered in the air like a slap I couldn't dodge. I joined in with the chuckles because what else could I do? Break down? Plead? Demand to know why he had misled me for months only to embarrass me in front of the entire team? Instead, I brought the glass to my lips and took a slow, careful sip. For the rest of the evening, I smiled, made conversation, and played along with the celebration. But under that surface calm, a storm churned inside me. When the party finally came to an end, I stepped out into the crisp night air. I pulled out my phone, my fingers trembling slightly as I typed out a short, clear email to HR. Subject, resignation letter, submission. Body, Dear Glenn, please find my official resignation letter attached. It is effective immediately. Best? Maya. I paused for just a breath, then hit send. As soon as the message disappeared from my outbox, I exhaled deeply. A strange and unfamiliar emotion settled over me, not regret. Not anger. Relief. But I wasn't finished. Glenn was about to learn what it meant to overlook the wrong person. That following Monday, something in the air felt different as I stepped into the office. There was a quiet confidence in my stride, a steady purpose. My resignation letter was already in Glenn's inbox, but he had no clue what else was in motion. From the outside, nothing seemed out of place. The receptionist gave me a cheerful hello. My coworkers were chatting around the coffee machine, still glowing from Friday's celebration. Jenna was already at her desk, clearly soaking in the attention from her recent promotion. I held no resentment toward Jenna. She hadn't wronged me. The issue sat behind the glass wall of the corner office. The man who had lied to my face, led me on with false promises, and discarded me like I didn't matter. I moved with calm precision, placing my handbag beside my chair and powering up my laptop. I didn't need to go to Glenn. I knew he'd come to me, and right on cue his door flew open. Maya, my office. Now. The entire floor fell silent. I darted around the room. The urgency in his voice wasn't something anyone had heard before, a blend of confusion, frustration, and something bordering on panic. I stood slowly, smoothed the front of my blouse, and walked calmly into his office. The door clicked shut behind me. Glenn was already at his desk, the printed copy of my resignation letter lying squarely in front of him. He stared at me, disbelief written across his face. "You're leaving?" His voice was hoarse. "Yes," I replied, taking the seat across from him, folding my hands neatly in my lap. "Effective immediately." "But why? This doesn't make any sense. We never discussed this." His words tumbled out. A soft laugh escaped me. We didn't discuss Jenna's promotion either. And yet, here we were. His jaw tightened. "Maya, this wasn't personal. Jenna simply outperformed you." "She's been here for only 3 months," I replied, tilting my head slightly. "But sure, if that's your version of reality, who am I to argue?" Glenn leaned forward across his desk. "You know I value you, right? You've been a crucial part of this team for 5 years. I don't want to lose you." I stared at him for a long beat, letting the absurdity of his words settle. "You don't want to lose me," I repeated slowly. "Yet you had no issue passing me over for a promotion I've worked toward for years. You didn't hesitate to let me sit there humiliated while the entire room clapped for someone else. And you had no problem suggesting I take lessons from someone who just learned where the coffee machine is." I watched his expression shift. The smug assurance he always carried began to show its first cracks. He ran a hand through his hair, clearly unraveling. "Look, maybe I handled things wrong. Maybe this could have been managed differently. But quitting, just like that, Maya, this is an impulsive decision. You're acting emotionally." My smile returned, but it held no warmth. "I sent that email Friday night, Glenn. If this were just emotion, I would have walked out that evening in tears. But I didn't. I waited. I planned. This isn't emotional, it's intentional. And it's on my terms." His fingers curled into a tight fist on the desk. He didn't like losing control, that much was obvious. "So what's the plan?" he asked, his tone sharpening. "Planning to jump ship to a competitor? Because in case you've forgotten, there's a non-compete clause in your contract." I couldn't help it, I laughed. "Oh, Glenn, you really don't get it." "I'm not going to a competitor," I said, rising from the chair with deliberate calm. "While you were too busy ignoring everything I've done for this company, someone else wasn't." His brow furrowed. "What are you talking about?" I took a deep breath, letting the moment settle before I delivered the final blow. "Do you remember Elliot Sharp? The CFO you forced out last year?" He tensed immediately. Of course he remembered. Elliot had been a powerhouse, strategic, respected, maybe even more than Glenn. But their clashes were constant, and Glenn had eventually pushed him out. "Well," I continued, "Elliot reached out to me a few months ago. He's launching his own firm. He wanted me to lead operations director level. I turned him down back then because I was still loyal to this place." I leaned forward slightly, lowering my voice. "But after Friday night? I called him. He made the offer again. I accepted." The silence that followed was heavy. Glenn sat completely still, like his mind was racing to catch up. "You're leaving to join Elliot's firm?" he finally managed, voice low and tight. "I start next Monday," I said plainly. He opened his mouth to respond, then shut it again before exhaling sharply. "Maya, come on. Be reasonable. This company has been your professional home for 5 years. Let's not throw that away. We can find a solution. We can." "I'm not interested in talking this through," I cut in smoothly. "My decision is final." He clenched his jaw. "If you walk out now, there's no coming back." I offered him a final smile. "I won't be needing a way back." I turned to leave, my hand already on the door. Then I paused and looked over my shoulder. "You know, Glenn," I said, "it's funny. Some people only realize your worth after you've walked away." With that, I stepped out, closing the door gently behind me, leaving him alone with the consequences he had earned. And honestly, it felt incredible. As I emerged from Glenn's office, I could feel the atmosphere shift. A silence had crept over the entire floor, heavy and undeniable. Monday morning had lost its usual rhythm. The faint keyboard clicks and casual conversations had been replaced by stillness. My coworkers weren't even pretending to work. Eyes peeked cautiously over cubicle walls. Glances darted in my direction and then away again as soon as they caught mine. The tension was unmistakable, something had gone down, and they could all feel it. I returned to my desk with quiet confidence and opened my email. Within moments, I forwarded my resignation notice to the full leadership team. Subject: Official Resignation Notice. Body: Effective immediately, I am stepping down from my position at the company. It has been an experience I will not forget. Best, Maya. It was short, professional, and yet the message beneath it rang loud and clear. I was done. Only seconds later, the first whisper swept across the room. Then another. And another. Like sparks on dry brush, the story spread. It didn't take long for someone to come over. Maya, is it true? I turned to find Talia, one of the few colleagues I actually respected here. Her face was a mix of shock and concern. I nodded gently. Yeah. It's time. She exhaled, running a hand through her hair. Wow. I mean, I get it. But I didn't expect you to actually walk away. Neither did Glenn, I said under my breath. She let out a dry laugh. Well, that man's a fool. Everyone here knows you earned that promotion. Around us, a few more coworkers had started inching closer, clearly trying to eavesdrop while pretending to sort files or check emails. Even Jenna had glanced up from her desk, her expression unreadable, eyes flicking between me and Glenn's office. She looked like she wanted to say something, but no words came. I didn't mind. I didn't need anything from her anymore. 10 minutes later, as I zipped up the final section of my bag, a new notification appeared in my inbox. A meeting request from Glenn. Subject, urgent, let's talk. Time, 15 minutes. Location, my office. I stared at the message. Then I sighed. Desperation always comes dressed in urgency. I didn't rush. I took my time walking back to his office. When I entered, the door closed quietly behind me. Glenn no longer looked like the man I had worked under for 5 years. The arrogance was gone. The smugness had drained out of his face. What remained was a man who had finally realized, too late, the magnitude of his mistake. Maya, he began, leaning forward, let's talk about this. You're making a rash decision, Glenn said tightly. A soft chuckle escaped me. Glenn, I dedicated 5 years of my life to this company. If there's been a rash decision, it wasn't mine. His lips pressed into a thin line. All right, I'll admit the promotion could have been handled better. But that's fixable. I'll match whatever Elliot is offering. I tilted my head slightly. That's interesting. You don't even know what Elliot offered me. Does it really matter? He snapped back quickly. We'll make it work. I'll get you a better salary, more flexible hours, maybe even. I raised a hand to stop him mid-sentence. You still don't understand, do you? The silence that followed said everything. Leaning forward, I met his eyes. This was never about the paycheck. It was about being seen. Respected. His jaw tightened, but I continued. I refused to stay at a place where I only matter once I threatened to walk away. You never valued me when I was fully committed. Why should I believe you suddenly do now? He looked like he wanted to argue, but I could tell I had taken control of the conversation, something he wasn't used to. Maya, let's be realistic, he tried again. You're throwing away a steady, established role to join some startup that might collapse in a year. I smiled as I rose to my feet. That startup is being run by someone who sees what I bring to the table. And honestly, I'd rather bet on myself than stay somewhere I'm treated like an afterthought. Goodbye, Glenn. Packing up my things felt strange, like I was floating. I moved through the motions, taping shut the final box, lifting it into my arms, but everything around me felt quieter, sharper. As I approached the elevators, a few coworkers offered soft claps, a quiet acknowledgement of what I'd just done. They understood. Jenna finally stood from her desk, uncertainty written across her face. She walked over hesitantly. Maya, I didn't know. I raised a brow. Didn't know what? Her mouth opened then shut. Of course she knew. She hadn't planned it, maybe, but she benefited from it just the same. It's fine, Jenna, I said calmly. Enjoy the promotion. She flinched slightly, but I was already stepping inside the elevator. As the door slid closed in front of me, I let out a breath steady deep. This wasn't just the end of something. This was the beginning. The following Monday, I stood in front of a sleek, modern glass building with the words Sharp & Associates etched in steel at the entrance. My new chapter had arrived. Elliot's firm was smaller than my previous company, but it radiated energy. This wasn't a place coasting on legacy, this was where things were being built from the ground up. Where ideas mattered. Where people mattered. As I stepped through the front doors, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: excitement. No more Glenn. No more fighting for scraps of appreciation. No more invisible ceilings. The elevator doors reflected my image back at me, same clothes, same hair, but somehow I looked different. More sure of myself. More alive. This wasn't just a job. It was freedom. The moment I entered my new office, one with floor-to-ceiling windows and a door I could actually close, I knew I'd made the right call. The morning passed in a blur of greetings, onboarding sessions, and strategy discussions. And yet, everything felt different. People listened. During my very first leadership meeting, Elliot turned to me with an encouraging smile. Maya, I'd like you to take the lead on our new operations initiative. We're restructuring the entire department, and with your background, I know you're the perfect person to handle it. Just like that. No convincing. No begging. No layered performance. They already understood my value. I nodded, suppressing a small smile. I'd love to, I said simply. A few colleagues nodded with approval. Elliot's face said it all. This was the expectation all along. This was how leadership should work. No games. Just respect. 2 days later, the first cracks in Glenn's empire appeared. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Talia. Talia. OMG, Maya. Glenn is spiraling. It's chaos over here. No one knows how to do half of what you handled. Jenna's totally overwhelmed. Turns out she actually doesn't do more than you after all. I smirked but kept scrolling. Talia again. And get this, 3 clients already reached out asking for you by name. They're not happy. Words getting around fast. Satisfaction rolled through me. For years I had been overlooked, taken for granted. And now Glenn was learning something important. Not everyone is replaceable. That afternoon, as I was reviewing internal documents, my assistant popped her head into the office. Maya, there's a call on line 1. A company called Whitaker and Company. They said they used to work with you and want to discuss moving their account. I blinked. Whitaker and Company was one of the largest clients at my old job. Put them through, I said, steadying my voice even as my pulse picked up speed. A moment later, I heard a familiar voice on the line. Maya, said Noel Whitaker, the CEO, warmth in his tone. Heard you've joined Sharp and Associates. Let's talk. Leaning back in my chair, I let a slow smile spread across my face. Of course, Noel. What can I do for you? Within the span of a week, 3 major clients from my previous company reached out, each one echoing the same message. Things aren't the same without you. We don't feel taken care of anymore. If you're leading operations at Sharp and Associates, we want to follow you there. And so they did. I didn't poach them. I didn't need to. They left on their own, not for a logo, but for a person they trusted. Me. Back at my old company, Glenn was unraveling. Talia kept me updated. Talia. Jenna's completely overwhelmed. She's not ready for any of this. Glenn's been yelling in leadership meetings. No one knows how to fix the mess. Talia's message came late Thursday evening. The board's furious. Clients are dropping fast and investors are breathing down Glenn's neck. He's under major pressure to fix this. I could only imagine the look on his face, the panic, the regret, and the best part? I hadn't lifted a finger to cause any of it. I was simply thriving elsewhere. By Friday afternoon, as I wrapped up my work week, my phone buzzed again, this time with an email from Glenn. I raised an eyebrow and clicked it open. Subject, a proposal. Maya. I'd like to schedule a conversation. I believe we can reach a mutually beneficial arrangement. If you're open to it, let's find a time next week to talk through options. Looking forward to your reply. Glenn. I leaned back in my chair, a quiet laugh escaping me. Desperation clung to every word. And for the first time in 5 years, the balance of power was mine. I let the irony settle in. This was the same man who once dismissed me publicly. Who said Jenna does a lot more than you already. Now here he was extending an olive branch. I took my time crafting a response. No rush. No emotion. Just deliberate control. Subject. A proposal. Glenn. I'm available for a brief meeting on Monday at 10 a.m. Let me know if that works. Best. Maya. After hitting send, I calmly closed my laptop. This wasn't about reconciliation. I wasn't returning to negotiate terms. I was going to watch him squirm. At exactly 10 o'clock Monday morning, I walked through the familiar glass doors of my old office building. The energy had shifted. The receptionist hesitated before greeting me, unsure whether I was a visiting exec or a ghost from the past. As I moved through the office, I caught the glances. The murmurs. Everyone knew something was happening. And then I stepped into Glenn's office. He looked awful, sunken eyes, restless fingers tapping the desk, a jittery posture that betrayed his nerves. The arrogance that once defined him had vanished. Thanks for coming in, he said, forcing a strained smile. I sat down with composed poise, crossing one leg over the other. Of course. What's on your mind? He exhaled, leaned forward and got straight to the point. We need you back, Maya. I didn't respond. Just let the sentence linger in the silence, heavy with poetic justice. I misjudged your role here, he admitted. I see that now, and I'd like to fix things. If you return, I'm prepared to offer you a significant raise, a senior executive title, and complete autonomy over your department. He leaned back, clearly expecting a reaction. I tilted my head. So just to be clear, you had 5 full years to see my worth. 5 years to recognize what I brought to the table. 5 years to promote and respect me. I paused. And instead you handed my promotion to someone with 3 months of experience, told me to take notes, and laughed while I was humiliated. He shifted uncomfortably, his jaw tensing. And now, after your leadership collapses and clients are walking out the door, you want to give me everything I already earned? He started to interject. Maya, come on. But I raised my hand to stop him. Let me ask you something. If I hadn't left, would I be sitting here now? Would any of this be on the table if things were going well for you? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The flicker in his eyes gave it all away. I saw the truth. He never valued me until it hurt to lose me. A soft, knowing laugh left my lips. That's what I thought. Glenn leaned forward, his tone growing sharp with urgency. You're making a mistake. You have history here, and we both know you've put in too much to walk away now. I stood slowly, smoothing the front of my blazer as I leaned toward him. You still don't get it. Then I smiled, cool and measured. I never needed you. You needed me. And now you're finally realizing that. His face darkened, but I saw the flicker of panic behind the calm mask. As I reached the door, I paused and turned back slightly. You should take notes, Glenn, I said, my voice soft but pointed. A mirror to the jab he once threw at me. Maybe next time you'll recognize the people who actually make your company run. Then I walked out for good. Back at Sharp & Associates, momentum was on our side. Our client list had nearly doubled, and more companies continued abandoning Glenn's crumbling ship. The shift was undeniable. And then on a quiet Friday afternoon, Talia sent me one last message, and it made me laugh out loud. Talia, Glenn just got fired. The board forced him out. They couldn't recover from the client losses. I leaned back in my chair, sipping my coffee, completely at peace. Perfect. Glenn had once believed I was disposable. Turns out he was. And me? I was exactly where I was meant to be.